Hey, good morning, YouTube family and podcast family. So, welcome to Happy Crappy Hour. Welcome to Escape from Crazytown, where hopefully we will be able to help each other recognize the crazy we were in and find normalcy, right? Find some good, healthy place where we can settle down and enjoy our life. All right, you guys. So, today we are going to talk about trusting again, which is a huge, huge deal because this can affect the rest of your life. And that's why I want to talk about that. But first, I'm going to let you guys hop on. Good to see some people here starting to hop on. I'm glad you're here. So I'll give you a few minutes as I go through what my happies and crappies were this week. Um, Let me see. My happies this week was that I started cycling. Yeah, it was awesome. Some friends of ours took us out. We did so many miles. I think 50, almost 60 miles, which is insane, right? Especially for a beginner. So I'm pretty proud of myself. Yay. That was my happy getting out, and I feel good, I feel fit. So, that's a good thing. I would encourage you also to do something like that. You'd be surprised how strong you are. And even if you aren't, that's okay. Really, I was so, how we, I don't want to say like humble, but you would self-degrading, self-deprecating about it, I guess, where I'm aware that I am not at the level of the people I was with. I was out cycling, you guys. So in case you're just hopping on, I was just talking about my happy this week. I went out riding a bike, and I actually purchased a couple. I have really awesome friends who are savants when it comes to bicycles, I guess. And they helped me find two great used bicycles, and one for mountain biking, one for road biking. Yeah, who knew, right? That they were different. So it was great. So that was my happy. It's kind of opened up a new world for me. Not kind of, it really did. It has opened up a new world for me. New people, people who are outside a lot, getting sun, socializing, and we can have fun together, which is awesome. Yeah. So that's my happy this week, and I'm seeing some of you guys hop on. So good to see you, John Bailey. Good to see you. Good morning, Mike. Good morning. Turquoise B. Hi. Good to see you and welcome. Mike says hi, Escape. Yes, you guys can call me Escape or Oscar. This is the little guy here that I carry around with me all over the place. His name is Oscar, and he's kind of my mascot for the channel. And you can also call me Escape from Crazytown, right? So today our topic is trusting again. And the reason I want to talk about that is because it affects all of our relationships from this point on. And after having been, through the trauma of a relationship with a narcissist, we tend to pull back. We not just tend, I mean, we buckle up. We barricade ourselves, because we've been so damaged and hurt by the narcissist. They take our trust, they take our hope, they take our dreams, and we expose ourselves, our inner thoughts, our inner soul, everything to them, right? And we come out of that feeling like they are taking us with them. So after that kind of trauma, you don't want to trust another person to come in and do that again, because you feel like there's just nothing left, right? There's just nothing left. Where did I get Oscar? Actually, I found Oscar in my house. Somebody must have left him here. So I'm thinking, I'm trying to remember where. I've had kids coming in and out of the house, and they, for years and years. And Oscar's been in our house and actually in our doggy toy bin for a while. Because when I found him, I was like, oh, this would be good for a little dog toy. But our dogs didn't really play with toys like stuffed animals as much, or at least Oscar anyway. So he survived. So yeah. So, oh, you want one? Yeah, I love him. He's great. I love Oscar. I hope he brings you guys joy too when you see him. Well, you guys, so let's get on to our topic. I do want to talk a little bit about my crappies though, because, like everybody else, I still struggle. I still have my ups and downs. And, if you're human, you're going to, all right? You're just going to. And part of that is, feeling insecure, feeling that you pull back from your relationships, right? And I catch myself doing that. I catch myself protecting from new relationships and not wanting to move too fast, which is good, right? That's a good thing. And that's part of learning to trust again as well. It's you don't want to just go out there as if everybody is trustworthy, all right? People have to earn your trust. Before, we used to just trust everybody, right? We just thought, oh, everybody had good intentions or they mean well. They may have make mistakes with us, but overall, we don't feel like we have to protect ourselves. And now we go out there and we feel like, who is safe? We don't know who's safe anymore. Everybody's a danger, and we don't know who we can trust. So part of what happened this week for me was, a little eye-opening with that as well. I went into a group, had a book club, and I had recommended Safe People, by Cloud and Townsend, which I have recommended multiple times on my channel here. So it was my turn to pick a book, and I, kind of just threw it out there and said, well, I had read Safe People and I really liked it and I recommended on my channel. So my group said, sure, yeah, let's read it. And at first I just felt so insecure. I thought, this is not a book club that does self-help, really. They're not really a psychological, get into psychology type topics. Not even really relationship stuff. We just enjoy the books we read. We do try to grow as people. But they read this book, and I was expecting practically nobody to like it, right? To come back and say, oh, you're the crazy one. You're the only one who has problems with relationships, and that's why you need Safe People, the book. And we already have figured it out because we all have great relationships. That's what I was expecting. Well, I get there, and everybody liked it. Everybody in the book club liked it. They marked it up. They wrote notes in it. They even the one person in the club who, I think in the 10 years these people have had this book club. I've only been in it for a couple of years, but they said this one person who's been in it for about 10 years has liked maybe 4 books of all the books they've ever read. And he actually liked this book. He liked Safe People, which was really a shock to me because a lot of times people appear to you, right, and to me, like they have it all together and they have great relationships and they seem healthy and they're in, a relationship. They may be married for 15, 20 years, whatever, right, 30, 40 years. And you think, oh, well, they have relationships all figured out. Why would they need this book, Safe People? Well, the people in my book club were saying, and these are people, some of them who've been married, I want to say 30 years on up, probably 40 years. And they said, a couple of them said, I wish I had this when I was a young person. I wish I had this book when I was a teenager, because it just opens your eyes to, it helps you to mature. It gives you an idea of what people are capable of, what to look for, what to be careful of, and how to know when someone's a safe person. And that does bring us to our topic today, which is about trusting again. And part of trusting again is discovering what safe people are and what unsafe people are, what they look like, right? What their characteristics are. And I have a video that I did a while ago. It was a happy crappy hour. I want to say it was probably 3 or 4 videos ago. It was something like 9 traits of an unsafe person or a narcissist or something like that. I will put it in that little eye icon, a circle that shows up to the right of your screen after our live stream here. I'll put it in here so that you can see it. It's not on there right now, but as we're live streaming, that is. So when you click on there, you'll be able to see that video. It goes through 9 of the traits that I chose out of Safe People and other books I had read that indicate to you what a safe person looks like and what an unsafe person looks like. Okay. Now, today, I do want to talk about trusting again because, to share with you a little bit, it held me back from my husband, for a long, long time, being able to trust people. I was not raised to trust people. If you were raised in a narcissistic household, you will come out, damaged. You just will, you just cannot come out of that unscathed. And then when you get into a relationship, or you try to get into a relationship when you become an adult, you are coming in guarded. I'll just tell you that right now. You come in guarded because you don't know if this person's going to take off on you, right? Abandonment is a huge thing. Whether you've been abused by a narcissist or not, a lot of people go through abandonment issues, and that's part of trusting as well. Well, my trauma caused me to not trust even my husband, who was so trustworthy. I mean, he stuck it out with me thick and thin for years, actually decades. And there were moments that I trusted him, like moments I let down my guard, moments that I fully believed that he loved me. And then the insecurity would creep back in and tell me it wasn't real, or that he was going to leave me, or something will take him away from me, even if he doesn't go willingly. An accident or something like that, right, will happen, and it will all be taken away from me. And I lived in this fear, I want to tell you, actually quite until probably this year. I had to face that. And that, by the way, is the good news about this healing process. It teaches you so much about yourself. You get to dig deeper and deeper into the layers until you fortify and refortify your your foundation, who you are, and you get to rebuild. You get to build the stronger, healthier minded, healthier physically, mentally, everything person, and you will be able to trust again. All right, you guys, let's get into some of these things here. So the reason I'm doing this topic is because if you're not able to trust, it'll keep you from bonding with others, and because you're paranoid and suspicious, it'll keep you there. And we want to be able to move beyond that. And it's good, actually, to be skeptical. I'm a very skeptical person. I look at, at least most of my life I have been. I'm learning to be more optimistic and hopeful now. But most of my life I'd been paranoid and suspicious and skeptical of people. But that had stunted my relationships, and I know it has. And it isn't until kind of recently that I've started building healthy relationships. And that's where I want to get you guys. All right, you guys. I see a bunch of you guys are hopping on. Is that right? Maria Dame Decor. Oh, and good to see you. Just try to deal with it like it. Yeah, okay, you guys are talking. That's good. See, Thomas, good to see you here. Yeah. All right, you guys. Mike says, my ex still uses her kids to bully and gaslight me. Ah, that's awful. Someone asked in the last video, and my initial reply kind of shows you where my heart is. They asked, when they broke up with their narcissistic ex, do they still send a birthday gift to the narcissist's daughter? And my heart is like, oh yeah, if you feel like it, do it. But I want to say no. I after that I realized, and I read some comments, you're right. When you're dealing with a narcissist, the rules are different. You cannot be this open, free loving, trusting person. You have to pull away. You have to go no contact. When you know it's an unsafe person, same thing. So back to our topic, you guys. I have here, there are seven 7 qualities, right, of a person that I noticed when I started thinking about the narcissists in my life and the healthy people in my life. I noticed there were these huge discrepancies. They're huge yet subtle, okay? Very subtle, because you don't think about these things too much and you write them off or you make excuses for why it's not a big deal. So the first thing is when you are dealing with people and you can see that the person you're with is not emotionally stable. Now, I'm not saying like just because of this one thing, it makes them a narcissist. What I'm saying is that narcissists just aren't emotionally stable. And if you are the one who's in a relationship with them, you are going to see that. Other people will probably not see that, right? Everybody else thinks they've got their stuff together. Everybody else thinks your narcissist boyfriend or girlfriend or wife or husband has it all together. But only you see the craziness behind closed doors. That's the emotional crazy I'm talking about, all right? Now, some of us will have this, or most people, I think, kind of go up and down. There are a few that are very, very stable people, all seems like all the time. But don't question, don't feel bad if you feel like, oh, once in a while I, freaked out or panicked or whatever. That happens. What I'm saying is that when you are in a relationship with a narcissist, you'll see that they are constantly unstable most of the time, right? You're going to see like most of the time they are very unstable people emotionally. You kind of write that off because you think, oh, well, they had childhood trauma, they had this, they had that, but it makes them unsafe. And that makes them not a safe person to trust. Okay. Remember, you guys, we're going back to how to trust again. So when you're building a relationship with people, you want to see that. You want to see, are they at the maturity level where they are emotionally stable? That will make them more of a safe person, a person that you can trust. Because someone who is emotionally unstable is not a good person to trust, because they're not, they're shaken back and forth by their emotions and whether it's a good day or a bad day. So you don't want to get caught up in that. You don't want to get caught up in the storms when they start to turn against you. So that was the first one. Second point, or second red flag, right, that we may miss when we're in a relationship with an untrustworthy person, possibly a toxic person, possibly definitely narcissistic people will have these traits. You hear them gossip constantly. So point 2 is that you hear them gossip constantly. So, they cannot seem to say good things about other people. They seem to just be so into everybody's life, criticizing them, exposing, even when people are confiding in them. And then you're like, wait, if that person was confiding in you and then you're just blurting it out to me or our group of friends, or when you go out to lunch with them and they're sharing stuff, you're like, whoa, I don't know that that person would appreciate you talking about them. Okay, if you're noticing that a lot with the person you're with, this is not a trustworthy person. But with a narcissist, we tend to let it go, because I think everybody has, maybe not everybody, but a lot of people have a bit of a voyeurism thing where you're just interested, right? You may not be a gossip yourself and you may not be a critical person, but when you hear somebody's going through a hard time, you kind of go, wow, what's going on? And you're inquisitive, you're curious, right? And you want to hear, not that you dig for it, but the narcissist or the toxic or untrustworthy person will volunteer this information about the other person, whether you prompt them or not. And so if you're seeing or hearing that a lot from a particular person, know that whatever you say to them is not safe. You cannot trust them with whatever's going on in your life, even if it sounds like they have a really good perspective on this other person's issues. Even if it sounds like, yeah, that's terrible, and they have a good, somewhat of a good judgment against or for whatever's going on, they're probably going to share whatever's going on with you to other people as well, because they will use that as entertainment as conversation pieces, something to connect with other people. Your issues, your trauma, your problems will become, you know, a tool of manipulation or a tool to connect with other people. That is not a safe person. That is not a trustworthy person. So what you do is when you're with somebody and you notice like, wow, they just never talk about other people. Like if they do, it's all good stuff. It's like, wow, you know, so and so got a promotion, or, you know, I really liked her haircut, or her son won this award, you know, good stuff. You're not going to hear nasty gossip. If you So that's the difference between a trustworthy person and a non-trustworthy person, all right? And the kind of things that we let slide when we're in love or when we've been friends with somebody for a long time, we let this stuff slide, right? Like I said, these things are kind of subtle. I've had people in my life who do these three things. And at the time, I thought, well, yeah, they gossip, but generally we've known each other for 10 years. You know, we have history, and I gave them trust, even though they were big gossips. And I should not have. Okay. I'm sorry, that was just number 2. So number 3 is they don't praise others, or they praise themselves more. Yeah. So what I mean by that is they're constantly putting other people down. Like they don't know, or I was going to say they don't know how to give a compliment, right? But they do. They give a compliment here and there. But most of the time you see them putting other people down. Everybody's an idiot, right? Everybody's stupid compared to them. Everybody else isn't as good as they are, isn't as smart, isn't as street smart, isn't as wise, isn't as beautiful, isn't as well dressed, doesn't have as nice a car as they have. They're constantly comparing themselves to other people, where they shine and the other people don't, right? Everybody else does not measure up to them. And they'll point this out too. They'll say things like, yeah, even though they're really good friends with somebody. I had a friend who was a narcissist. We're no longer friends. You know, I've come to this point in my life where I'm so happy that the narcissists in my life have fallen away, which is great. Most of them anyway. I don't know a ton of them. I knew 4 or 5, and they've all fallen away. Those have. And then there are a couple that are still in my life. But yeah, I'm happy that they've fallen away, because they don't bring the drama anymore into my life, which is great. Okay, so I knew this person for a long time, and she was talking to me about, I guess, a friend of hers who I thought, you know, from the outside and from the inside, she even said how much she appreciated this friend of hers, this other friend. And she praised the other friend in a way like, wow, she's always there for me. She has done so much for me. We hang out together. She's so pretty. Okay, you know, so she said some compliments, right, about this other woman. But then she says stuff like, yeah, you know, she puts her out there for booty calls, and she jumps into bed too fast, and she has all these one night stands. So anyway, you see the smearing, you see the character assassination going on. Even though she's just said something nice about her, then she turns around and it sounds like she's just saying, you know, I'm concerned about her because she does these things. Well, gee, if you're concerned about it, then talk to her about it. Why are you talking to me about it? I don't need to know this about her. I barely even know this woman. So sadly, for that other woman who thinks they're best friends, she's sharing her junk with me. And I should have known right then and there. I mean, and I did. And it felt weird and it felt awkward. But like I said, we let these things slide. So that was point number 3. They don't praise others, or they praise themselves more. They highlight or talk often about their own accomplishments and their own good deeds. So turns out my friend made several booty calls herself, but she did not point that out. Of course, she didn't volunteer that information. It kind of came out a little bit later. you piece it together. You're like, oh, okay, this guy's calling you at 11 o'clock at night. And then you go over to his place. Anyway, she shared a bunch with me. Um, it added up to her going and doing booty calls, but she would not call it that. But she called her other friends booty calls, right? Um, but she highlighted her stuff as if, she had a special relationship, or she was up higher, or she was more moral, or in some way, caring and considerate of the guy, and that's why she went to him. That's how they speak. They highlight themselves. They make themselves sound better than other people, even though they're doing the exact same whatever, things that are not good. All right, that was number 3. Number 4 is everyone else is always the bad guy in their stories. And they're defensive when it comes to looking at themselves and what they need to change. So the main thing on that one, I would say, is their defensiveness. If someone is being defensive with you, when you bring up something even tiny, the tiniest things, and they get defensive, like, oh, you know what? You're trying to be helpful. Like you tell them, oh yeah, your makeup isn't blended very well right here. Let me just smudge that in a little bit. And they get offended and they get mad at you. Like, how dare you critique my makeup? Or you ask them, could you please come a little early because I need to go, whatever, get to this place on time. And they get offended that you call them late. If they can't take small adjustments, and these aren't like huge criticisms or anything like this is actually helpful or requests. They can't even take that. They get defensive. That is somebody you cannot trust. But you notice, like, when you ask somebody, can you show up early? And they're like, yeah, happy to. How much earlier do you want me to show up? That's more of a trustworthy person, okay? Those are, and like I said, these are very subtle signs, but they're huge when it comes to spotting someone who's not trustworthy. I'm not saying like, oh, just because somebody says, oh, sure, I'll come early when you make a suggestion or a request, that they're completely trustworthy. I'm just saying they did not tip the red flag. They did not send up a red flag to not trust them. But the ones that become defensive and they make themselves out to be the hero in every story and everybody else is to blame for everything. And then when you ask them to make an adjustment or do something, they get defensive. Yeah, notice that there's some inconsistency there. All right, so that's number 4. I want to see how you guys are all doing here. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me just go through. Oh, yeah, you guys are going through problems with narcissists and the kids. When there are kids involved, they do manipulate the kids too. And they manipulate the new supply. I just recently read a comment and responded to it today about somebody whose narcissist's new supply was bullying or saying mean things to their kids, and yeah, the supply, even though the supply knows that the narcissist is a jerk, will still take the narcissist side because they're with them and they're being told one side of the story, and they're only hearing one narrative, and it's the narcissist narrative. And that's why, again, like I said, these little subtle signs where the person that you're with or you're dealing with is always the hero and everybody else is the bad guy. They always do the right things and everybody else does the wrong things. They are on higher ground because they somehow see their actions, even though it's the same actions as everybody else, but they see their actions as more altruistic or more moral. Yeah, that is one of the signs of someone you don't trust. You don't want to trust that. All right, you guys. Another sign, the 5th sign that we miss when we are with a narcissist or we allow to go through, is that they seek affirmation a lot, right? Now, I understand it's great to be affirmed. It's great to have someone say, good job. And we all do need that, whether we admit it or not. We do need that. But someone who seeks it constantly is so insecure that the moment you say something, they're offended or they're hurt, or they want to make sure that you still like them. That's not really a safe person to trust. Okay. When you're with a narcissist, we tend to let that go because we look at it like, oh, we feel so bad because, you know, they're insecure. So we want to affirm them. We want to coddle them. We want to take care of them. And we make excuses for them, their constant need for affirmation. Well, this constant need for affirmation makes them a very unsafe person to trust, because on a dime, they can be offended by you and hurt by you and turn against you. And that's why you don't want to trust somebody who is constantly seeking affirmation, all right? Who constantly needs to be praised for all of their accomplishments, who's always telling you all the good things that they do for everybody and what high ground they take when stuff happens. It's and they never show themselves or to have any weakness, right? They act like, oh, they can't self-criticize, right? They can't self examine. So in when you bring up something to them that they might want to change or fix or whatever, they get defensive. So, okay, you guys, those are kind of very subtle signs that we just continually let go. But if we want to be able to build trust again, you look towards whether the people you want to trust are displaying these signs, right? You want to see whether they are behaving this way. If they're behaving this way, then be careful about trusting them. I mean, with very much at all. I mean, you might be able to trust them to feed your dog. You might be able to trust them to give you a ride somewhere, but don't trust them with your hard struggles or private issues or stuff like that. All right, you guys. Number 6 of an issue or something, that a red flag that we allow when we're with a narcissist, but we got to watch this when we want to learn how to trust again, is the other person being only one-dimensional with you? Yeah, you got to ask that. Is the other person only sharing bad times with you? Like they only come to you when they have issues. They only call you when they need money or when they need a ride or when they need you to whatever, do something for them, right? Otherwise you never hear from them. You only hear from them when they just broke up with somebody. You only hear from them when they just got in a fight with somebody or an argument with somebody. It's one-dimensional. You only share the bad times. Now, the other can be true too, where you only share the good times. All right. So if the person is only showing you good times and they're not willing to share any of the bad times or trust you with their heart issues, then you might not want to trust them with your heart issues. Okay. I've had a friend recently tell me how he had been friends with somebody for 30 years. 30 years they've been friends. But it sounded like they only shared good times. And sometimes we think, oh, well, we've been with this person for that many years. Definitely they're trustworthy, right? Definitely we're friends. But what happens is if the relationship is only one-dimensional, it stays that way for a reason from the other side. They don't share with you really what's going on inside of their head or their heart about you. They don't share with you the issues they have with you, so they stuff it. But you're such good supply for a good time that they will stick around with you for, in this case, three decades, right? So this person, after 3 decades of going on vacations together, of being parts of the same social groups, of hanging out every week, of going on vacation 2 to 3 weeks, something like that, 2 or 3 weeks a year together, And imagine that, 3 decades of that. And on a dime, when something hard happened, and it wasn't hard, it was an accident, right? They got into an accident. And after that, that other person blamed my friend for everything after that, like, uh, so weird. I don't want to go into tremendous detail, but I guess I could. They were out diving, and my friend was saying how when you're climbing the ladder to get out back onto the boat, everybody who's diving knows to stay away from the ladder because, it's the boat swaying back and forth and you can get knocked or whatnot. So whoever's climbing up the ladder has to have a lot of space around them, and you shouldn't be like right beneath them. You shouldn't be right beside them, wherever. Um, so my friend was climbing up the ladder on this boat that obviously was swaying back and forth, right, by the waves after they'd been diving. And as he was going up, the ladder slipped and went to the side, slipped to the side, and he fell over. He fell off the ladder and back into the water. Well, he hit the guy behind him when he fell into the water. He didn't realize that because he's wearing all this gear, right? So he got the ladder back on and he climbed back up. And it wasn't until he turned around to help his friend that he saw his friend was bleeding from being hit by him falling on the guy. Well, he apologized and he helped the guy and all this, right? But after that, that guy just started shutting out my friend. Like, that's it. You hurt me. You hurt me physically and therefore hurt me emotionally. So the guy it's so bizarre that people can do this, but they will. They will see something that was an accident that you didn't mean to do, but they will take great offense to it. Great, huge, injurious offense to it. And then they will not let it go. And it sounds bizarre, but the guy just didn't want to have anything to do with my friend again. I mean, they ran into the same circles, but the guy constantly avoided him. And then the guy, after so many years that they were friends, this guy just didn't want anything to do with him anymore. And I know it sounds like, well, there must be some other parts to the story, but this is what narcissists do. It's weird. They're one-dimensional. When they have friends, they will do one thing with that friend. They're not up and down with that friend. They're not, they either call that friend when they're in need, or they call that friend only when they want to have fun. And my friend was the fun friend. So they hung out with him. They got great supply from him because he does all these dive trips and stuff. And they benefited from their relationship with my friend. But then the moment something happened, that kind of, and it could be a big thing, but you can understand how a normal relationship can recover from this. A normal relationship, can recover even when somebody crashes your car, right? People have been in car accidents together where the other person's the driver, and then they don't just drop that person out of their life, right? But narcissists will. It's like, you caused the bad luck in my life after this. And pretty much he had bad luck in his life after that, the other guy. So everything that happened that was bad luck, he just blamed it on my friend, which was weird, right? But that's what they do. They're very one-dimensional. And when you're not providing the thing that they need from you anymore, then you are no longer needed. You're discarded. That is something you have to watch for. And that really subtle sign that my friend did not catch for 30 years was that they shared one side of a relationship, which was, we only have fun together and that's it. We don't have depth to this relationship. We don't share actual real struggles. We're not in each other's lives day to day. We just go and vacation and have a good time together. Okay, you guys. The last thing, number 7, that I want to say that we dismiss or we miss when we're with a narcissist, right? And we have to watch out for, is that we have to watch how they treat everyone in their life. Everyone. Now, you can look at somebody and say, for the most part, they treat, most of the people pretty well. But then there are few people, every now and again, you can see them just treating horribly. And they smear that person, or they gossip about them, or they uh, every now and again blow up at a waiter, or or a stranger even, right? If they're not treating all the people in their life pretty consistently, then you better believe that they are not treating you consistently behind your back, right? uh one of these things, why I say this is because I was, the narcissist friends I was with, I just wrote it off for them. I just wrote off like all the trauma they were having, or drama they were having with their partners. I wrote it off like, well, I know them to be pretty consistent with me. I noticed they were pretty consistent with a couple of other people. They weren't mean to us. They were pretty nice. But then I noticed they were not that nice to their own partners. They weren't. They were not that nice to their own partners. They were bitter. They were mean. They were resentful towards their partners. I got to realize, what the heck? That is something that shows you this may not be the person you want to trust, right? It's not a trustworthy thing, um, or behavior or characteristic when someone is inconsistent with different people. You want to see that they generally treat people in their life. And I'm talking about, just a broad sweep of people. Well, they respect other people. They're not disrespectful towards just one or two or three or four people. They they just generally show respect for everyone. And that is someone who is trustworthy, because then you can pretty much guess that they're going to be respectful towards you as well behind your back, because you can see they're being respectful towards these other people. So you guys, those are the 7 things. I know it's so subtle and it seems like, but wait, um, these are not uh, very absolute clear signs, but they are signs, they are red flags that you have to be careful with when you're rebuilding trust. And that is the topic today, right? How do we rebuild trust? How do we not let our distrustfulness spill into our new relationships, or our current marriage, or friendships, our current friendships? How do we start to trust again? Well, you look at these 7 signs and see if the person that you're with, or the friends that you're with, display the good side of these 7 signs, right? If they do, then that's just you now learning how to pick up the subtle signs that will tell you whether they're trustworthy or not, right? So if they're displaying the negative side of these 7 signs, then be smart, be skeptical, be paranoid that, yeah, they are not people that you want to trust. It's just, building the skills of identifying these things, starting to notice these things, and not let it become a trigger, not let it make you a paranoid and pessimistic person, but instead make you a sharper person, a person who's able to identify character well, right? And that's what we want to do. I have one more point I want to share with you. So it's kind of a bonus point. It's number 8. But I'm going to share that with you right after I look at some of your comments and see how you guys are doing. So I am seeing here. Sorry, you guys, I'm just seeing if I can find. Okay. C. Thomas says, yes, the ex-narc was emotionally unstable, always gossiping behind my back, drinks a lot, always complaining about stress and depressed, being distressed and depressed in childhood issues, playing the victim. Yeah. And they use those excuses too for why they are the way they are, but they don't give that excuse to other people. Like, they don't give that allowance to other people, right? that another person might have had a hard childhood too, but you're offended by them. And yet I'm not supposed to be offended by what you're doing to me because of your childhood issues. It's that weird, it is a double standard, right? Them playing the victim while everybody else is the bad person. Let me see. Mike says, yes, my ex is unstable. I'm sorry, I'm just kind of looking to see. My ex was a professional victim, but super evil bully. Yes, and they can't see that they're the bully. They only see that they're the victim. And they can't see that they're hurting other people the same way that they're hurting you. They don't see that. I'm sorry, they don't see that they're hurting other people the same way they're complaining of being hurt, right? They'll say that these other people aren't inviting them to things, but then they will specifically exclude people to make them feel bad. You know, it's just weird, very, very weird. Let me see. Maria says here, even if you aren't in a divorce dilemma, the social workers step in right away. Observation of kids' behavior at school, etc. Wow, that's great, Maria. I assume you are in France, Maria Dame de Cour. So it sounds like a French title there. Yeah. Well, you guys, let me see. With narc hate, C. Thomas says, with the narc hate to bring things up because they will get offended. So hard to talk. Yeah, you can't bring things up to a narcissist because they will be automatically offended. They just cannot take any self-help. They can't take any help, right? They'll take it as criticism rather than suggestions or help in any way. And I understand that, you know, we come out of narcissistic abuse defensive, and I get that. So, but there's something that's different between us and them, is because the thing is, we want to change that. We don't want to be defensive. We know that that's a problem. So we work on that. Obi-Wan, good to see you. Says, hi, hey, Escape. These monsters are pathetic. Just talking about what I went through, I just get heated. Yeah. Yeah, we do. You know, we look at like, how do we put up with all of that insanity and abuse and pain from the narcissist? I'm talking with somebody right now on my channel in the comments who is being hoovered by her narcissist big time, even though she knows this person's a narcissist and she has confronted the narcissist. She also still has feelings for him. So he wants to continue to have her a supply while he is with somebody else, with a new supply. And I'm trying to help her stay strong and resist the hoovering, because narcissists will hoover back the old supply, even if you call them out. Really, even if you call them out on it, even if you point out that they're a narcissist, even if you say, I don't like it when you do this or that, and I won't put up with this or that, they will still hoover you back. You know why? Because you will put up with it. You will allow it. So just because you say stop, or just because you say no, and then you let them do whatever they want to do anyway, that's not a boundary, right? Just saying no is not a boundary. There has to be a consequence. There has to be enforcement, right, of the boundary for it to be a boundary. Otherwise, it's just, you know, it's just an imaginary line that you just drew that they can just walk through. It's just air, it's thin air. It doesn't mean anything when you say no, and yet, or stop stealing from me, or stop doing this, or stop cheating, or stop lying, and yet they keep lying, and you keep accepting their lies, and you keep letting them back in. That's an imaginary boundary you drew, right? So that's what's going on with me and one of the viewers, trying to help her work through that. And when we miss the narcissist, we tend to let these red flags go. We just do. We tend to let them get away with all of these signs, these subtle, somewhat subtle signs, right? Of whether they are trustworthy, whether they're someone that you want to be with, whether they're a safe person. We let it go because we are in love or we need them or they make us feel good some of the times, right? So we let it go. We allow them to use us. And that's where we want to stop that. We want to stop it so that we can start to build healthier relationships, right? Real relationships that are actually healthy. All right, you guys, let me see. Yeah, Mike says my ex loved gossip and was always nosy. Oh my gosh, aren't they super, super nosy? And if a person is that way, right away, you know, this is not a trustworthy person. They just are not a trustworthy person. Do not ever trust a gossip with any information, even if you have known this gossip for 15 years, right? I am running into people who have friends for 6 years, for 10 years, for 15, 20 years. And then, just like I was, they're shocked when that friend turns on them. And the common denominator is that that friend was a huge gossip. And just because you spent time with them, just because you have history with them, means nothing. You have to look at these subtle signs. You have to look at the subtle red flags. Okay. Mike says she called me everything that she is and would accuse me of things she was doing. Yes, this is what they are. They cannot take criticism. They don't self-reflect. They don't work on themselves. And if the person is not doing that, then you know this is not a trustworthy person. This is someone who's living a lie within themselves. Then they're going to how do I say this? Live a lie of a relationship with you. Just like the guy, my friend who had a friend of 30 years, you know, I'm looking at that and I can recognize from afar, obviously, right? And from, it's easier to see the big picture when you're not in it. I can see that the guy was using my friend for supply, for vacation supply, right? Because my friend had connections to have these amazing, crazy, awesome, adventurous trips. And boy, for that guy, that looked good. That looked good for him in his profession. That looked good that he was traveling the world with my friend. That made him look, you know, like a real world traveler and international man of whatever, you know, you want to say. Yeah, it made him look good. And that was the relationship they had for 30 years. And my friend took that time to mean, oh, it's a friendship, because over a period of time, you know, this must be then a connection and a friendship and a building up, right, of a relationship. So yeah, so crazy. Oh, Jihad, good to see you. Yeah, Jihad says, same here. I was accused for everything, then turns out she was guilty of all of that. Yep. Let me see. Wild Bird, good to see you. Wild Bird says, sadly, after narc abuse, we don't want to share for fear of being betrayed again. So we might be one-dimensional. We might be one-dimensional with others. I am so glad you brought that up, Wild Bird, because I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. That is my 8th point I'm going to bring out in just a bit. I want to go through some of this. I'm going to go over an hour today. I mean, I go over an hour every time, but I might go quite a bit over today because I think this is so important that we talk about trust and how to trust again. And I want to recap for you these subtle signs, because I think it's really important that when we go into a relationship that we pay attention to these subtle signs. All right. We become suspicious. We become paranoid. We become trigger, what do you call it? Sensitive. I don't know what you call that, but we become sensitive, right? So we're afraid to trust for fear of being hurt again. So how do we get through that? How do we get over that? How do we fix that? By recognizing some of these subtle signs and using it now as part of our arsenal, if you will, right? part of our tool set to discern a healthy person, someone who's worthy of trust, of our trust. That's what we do. All right, let me see. All right, let me see. Hey, you guys, I noticed that, you know what, one thing I did notice is I used to go on to other channels, so now I don't really have a whole lot of time to do that, and watch other videos. And, you know, of course, as you're watching the videos, I like to read comments. And when I read comments, I notice, oh, this person was on this channel and they were on this other channel. And I'm sure you guys go to different channels as well. And if that happens, don't, you know, I know our instinct is to go, oh my gosh, we've got people who, and when they bring things up across the channels, or how do you say that, from information you shared on one channel, and then they'll bring it up in a different channel. It just happens. That happens because we kind of get to know each other as a community. A lot of the same people come on across all these different channels. So I just want to let you guys know. And it's normal to feel a little paranoid about that. But if you're going from channel to channel and seeing these people, they probably are going to, from channel to channel, seeing you as well. So it's kind of neat, actually. It's kind of part of a community. So anyway, let me see. So sorry. I was going to say hi to someone here. Oh, where are you? Charlotte. Good to see you. And yeah, see, Thomas says, they treated us so badly, yet still hoover and act like nothing happened before. Yeah, because like I said, if you have a boundary, even if you expose them, even if you tell them, I know you are this way, I know you're a cheater, I know you're a liar, I know you are using me, I know you stole, you know, from me. It doesn't matter to them that you know all of this. What matters to them is whether you're going to let them continue to do this to you, right? Some of them will become very shy afterwards when you bring it up, and then they will run and they, you know, go no contact or whatever, gray rock you, but, or ghost you, right? But there are some that are so bold that they don't care that you know. They don't care that you point out when they mistreat you, so long as you continually let them mistreat you. It's not good, right? Yeah, Mike says it's like they have to find someone to scapegoat. Yeah, they backstab and they blame you for their mistakes. They can't take responsibility for themselves. And that's why they don't change. If you're around somebody who is not improving themselves by improving their character, you know, because all of us can improve, by the way. I know and I'm not trying to make you feel bad. And I know people are out there who are like, no, you are enough. You don't need to change. You know, this is not for people who are always criticizing themselves and putting themselves down. That's not what I'm trying to do here. What I'm saying is that we all have room for improvement. And when we make those improvements, life just gets better. It really just does. But people who refuse to make any improvement, people who refuse to see that they have anything that they could change or should change, these are not safe people to trust, because they are not going to be able to take criticism. They're not going to be able to see their own fault when they're hurting you, and they can only see fault in other people. That's not a safe person. Yeah. Well, you guys, okay. Mike says, yes, they only call when they want something or they want drama started. Yeah, that was one of my points. Well, you guys, I probably missed a bunch of comments in here, so I apologize about that if I did not get to your comment. But I do want to go recap for you guys the 7, I don't know to call them red flags, but the 7 things that we miss, right, when we are with a narcissist, signs that we miss in in trusting a narcissist. First of all, we trust them even though they're emotionally unstable. We trust them even though they're emotionally unstable. Now, being emotionally unstable sets you up and them up, right, for a disaster, for a train wreck of a relationship. If they're emotionally unstable, you cannot trust them to be stable with you. Can't trust them to be stable with when at some point they may feel offended by you. What are they going to do? Are they going to act as if they're stable then? No, they're going to retaliate. They're going to interpret whatever happened between you and them to be an attack. And that emotional unstableness will then be used, or it kind of indicates that they are going to go on the attack back towards you. Okay, that's number one. We trust them even though they're emotionally unstable. We trust them even though we hear them gossip constantly, right? And yet we trust them with our stuff. We hear them talk about other people and their problems that these other people were trusting them to keep secret, right? And yet we hear all this, and yet we trust them. Why would we trust them with our secrets? Why would we trust them with our personal information, right? And yet they are showing they're not trustworthy of other people's personal information. So that's point number 2. Point number 3, they don't praise others. Excuse me. Or they praise themselves more. So they could give a compliment to another person, and yet they will compliment themselves, though, higher than that other person, right? They will say how they, for instance, I gave the example of how a friend of mine was seeing how her booty calls, when she answered booty calls, were somehow a good thing, because that's how much she cared for the guy she was with, right? That's how much she wanted to show that she loved the guy she was with. But when her friends did booty calls, they were tramps, right? there were things that she needs to worry about with them because they're not behaving well. They're not whatever it was she was, criticizing them about. That's not praise, but in a way she was praising herself. She saw her behavior as somehow better behavior than her friends, although it was the same behavior. But they will also, if they praise other people, like, yeah, that person's such a nice person, but then they give you all these stories about themselves, of how wonderful and nice they were to everybody else, right? Above and beyond what they just said about the other person being a nice person. So they don't praise other people, or if they do, they praise themselves more than the other people. So number 4 is everyone else is always the bad guy in their stories. And they go on the defensive when it comes to looking at themselves and what they need to change. So they may be telling you a story about what happened, right, in their life, maybe between them and their best friend or their ex or whatever, right? And they'll tell you how the other person was so terrible and was just awful, and yet you start to see, like, wow, you could have, you maybe your friend, right, the person who's talking to you, could have done things differently. Maybe you noticed that your friend behaved in a bad way and was volatile and angry and explosive, and you want to point that out, and you want to say, like, well, maybe you could have said it this way instead. Then they get on the defensive. Then they get mad. Then they get angry at you. They can't see that there was anything at all that they could have done differently or better, or that they had done anything at all that was wrong. Nothing at all. So, and that's the difference between them and us, because there are times that, we have questioned ourselves. We actually are harder on ourselves, right? We tend to criticize ourselves more and say, what could I have done differently? Did I cause that? Did I do this? We are more self-reflective and introspective. The narcissist just isn't. And these are the things that we see them do, and yet we trust them, which we shouldn't. That's why I'm bringing it up. You starting to see that the person that you were with or are with, or the friend that you have, is not able to take criticism, is not able to improve themselves, doesn't see that they even need any improvement at all. That's a red flag, right? Number 5 is they seek constant affirmation. And at first, when we're in a relationship with a narcissist, we trust them despite that, right? Because we think, oh, it just kind of means that they have low self-esteem. That's all that is. They don't believe in themselves. So you want to prop them up. You want to help them with that. Even though they put you down. Here's the deal. They seek affirmation, and yet they will put you down. They don't affirm you, but they want affirmation. And we put up with that because we think, oh, they're that wounded. Because of course, remember, they tell you all the stories in how they were the victim of everything. And so you let them get away with this. This is another red flag that we let them get away with. And we still trust them, right? With our heart, we trust them with our home, with our children, we trust them. And yeah, and we shouldn't. So number 7 was, are they being one-dimensional, right? We talked a little bit about that. Are they sharing only the bad times with you? Only calling you when they need help? Only calling you when they're in a bind? Only calling you when they need money? Only calling you when nobody else is willing to talk to them, right? They have no other friend who's willing to put up with their junk anymore. So now they're going to dump on you because you're always there for them. And you feel, like, oh, I'm being a good friend by being there for them. So you let them do this, and then you trust them, right? You will trust them with your bad times. You'll trust them with your personal information because you're thinking, oh, but they're sharing with me their personal information, their hard time. But if they're only sharing with you the hard time, then they are not a trustworthy person. They're not letting you into their life. They're only letting you into a section of their life. And if a person only allows you into a section of their life, this is not somebody you want to share your personal information with, right? You don't want to trust them with valuable things. Okay. So, and then number 7 is you have to watch how they treat everyone in their life. That's another thing that we let go, right? When we're with a narcissist, we will trust them, even though we see them treating other people badly. Yeah, we will trust them, even though we see them treating other people badly, because we will highlight the good relationships. We'll highlight the times they're good to people. We'll highlight the times they were generous to somebody. We'll highlight the times that they were sacrificial even to, for somebody. We'll highlight the times that they came through, or at least seemed to come through, right, for somebody. And then you see them turn around and treat another person like trash. And you're like, wait a minute, it doesn't add up in your mind, but you allow it because they'll give you some kind of excuse like, oh, I was just really mad and it wasn't really me, or this set me off, or they deserved it, because they make up some kind of excuse and you allow it. So what you want to do is you look at how they treat everyone and not just highlight the good, but notice if they're treating somebody badly, then why are you trusting them? Why are you trusting them if they can switch on and off depending on who they're with, right? So be careful of that. So those are the 7 points, you guys. The 8th point that I want to bring up to you, which some of you already have kind of hit on, is that you need to check yourself, okay? And what I mean by that is, are you doing any of these things? And some of you have come forward and said, oh my gosh, I do that too. I've done that too. And here's the difference though, between you and a narcissist, or you and a toxic person, or you and an untrustworthy person. You are willing to fix that. You are willing to mature. You are willing to grow. All right. That is the difference. So you do still have to ask yourself though, and do I do any of these things? Because if I'm doing any of these things, it just means that we have a little bit of work to do. That's all, okay? We have a bit of work to do. We want to introspect. We want to self-examine because we don't want to be an untrustworthy person. We don't want to be an unsafe person. And guess what? Everybody goes through woundedness at some point in this life. Everybody has some form of trauma. Even people who are like, I've had the best life ever. Yes, I understand. And yet somehow you're not perfect. Why is that? Why are we not perfect, even if we had the best childhood ever? Because there are imperfect people in our life. There are imperfect situations in our life. You're gonna, even if you have wonderful relationships, you might lose a job. You might be in bankruptcy. You might have physical ailments, right? That will affect you. So if any of your trauma is causing you to behave in any of these 7 ways we just talked about, then we need to fix it. That's all, right? It's not so terrible. We can do that. And because we're healthy minded, we want to fix that. And so the reason I bring up point number 8, you guys, is because it takes 2 healthy people to have a healthy relationship. It takes 2 trustworthy people to have a trustworthy relationship. So you want to make sure that you are a trustworthy person. You want to make sure that you're a safe person. You want to make sure that the things that trigger you, that do make you unsafe at times, you want to take care of those triggers. You want to take care of why you're being triggered to, say, become angry or emotionally unstable, right? You want to do that. You want to become an emotionally stable person. So, you guys, we are all in this together. And that's what I want to let you know. We're all in this together. I hope that these signs have helped you. I know they're very subtle and it might be even hard to remember. So you have to write them down because they're so subtle. They're just things that we do in a relationship. There are things that we let happen in a relationship and then don't focus on because we just think it's minor. And yet these minor things are huge indicators to let you know whether a person is trustworthy or not, right? These minor subtle signs are huge indicators to whether a person is trustworthy or not. And that's where we want to be. We want to be able to identify a trustworthy person, and we want to become a trustworthy person. Well, you guys, you know, what I want for you is what is happening in my own life. And that is, I'm building these amazing, wonderful relationships. I just can't even, I'm trying to understand how in the world I got to this point where I'm able to see people so much more clearly now. I'm able to see the people who are in my life, whether they're safe, whether they're not safe, how far I can go with them emotionally, how far I can go with them personally, how far I can go with them even in enjoyment, right? Because some people are very standoffish, and that's fine. You can only get so far, and that's fine. They are where they are. You're where you are, and that's fine too. But if you become strong, if you become more self-centered, or not, well, not self-centered, centered as a person, that's what I was trying to say. Like, if you are a centered person, which means you're not flopping around, you're not unstable, you're quite strong character-wise, you're just automatically going to be able to recognize other people with also strong character. You also recognize people with very weak character, but you'll know what to do with that. You're not going to be swayed by them. You're not going to be manipulated by them. You're not going to be deceived by them. It's really quite awesome. So that's why I bring this up, and I want to share with you because it's even helped my marriage. It's made me a better person in my own marriage, and that is creating a deeper bond between me and my husband, which is what I want for all of you guys. I want you guys to be able to find these bonds, find good people. I want you to be able to identify and trust your own judgment. And it comes with practice, by the way. It really does. The people you meet, you'll start to pay attention, you'll see the signs. You're not going to like flip out and go, oh my gosh, narcissist in my, vicinity. But you'll just say, okay, I get it. That person I can only go this far with. I get it. And you're okay with that. So anyway, you guys, this is why I wanted to bring this up, because yeah, we do. We trusted everybody, or we trusted one particular person who said they loved us, possibly, who said they would never leave us, who said that we were their best friend, or that we were their soulmate, and yet they discard us, right? Like, what the heck? How did that happen? Well, these little subtle signs may have been there all along, but we allowed them through despite these little signs, right? We allowed them into our heart. We allowed them to take our trust. We gave them our trust. So after that kind of a trauma, that kind of a pain that happened to us, it's understandable why we pull back. It's understandable why we become paranoid and suspicious, right? It's very understandable. But don't let that hold you back from a life of really good friends, a life of, a beautiful partnership, a life with a man that you love or a woman that you could love. Don't let that get in that way. And that's where we are striving to get to, right? That's where I want you guys to get to. Well, you guys, let me see here. We have a lot of comments. Yeah. See, Thomas says, I hear him talking bad about me. And it was shocking. Yeah. Mike says, other times they show their true colors. It's like bipolar with them. They act super nice 1 minute and turn a complete 360 of hateful the next. Yeah. That's the unstable, right? Why do we allow that? And we did for a while because we felt bad for them. We believed all their sad stories, right? All their victimhood stories. And we allowed it. Be careful of that. Now, you can still have sympathy for somebody who had been traumatized, just like we have, right? I would hope that here you're finding sympathy, and I can be sympathetic towards you guys because we've all had trauma. We've been there. We've been hurt so badly and deeply. So that's totally understandable. But when a person uses that and then attacks you constantly, like, what the heck? That we don't have to put up with. That we don't have to allow, okay? What comes back towards us, we don't have to allow. You can be sympathetic, but that doesn't mean you have to take abuse in order to show sympathy. That's not showing sympathy. That's just becoming an enabler, you guys, all right? That's another video for another time. When we enable narcissists and when we enable toxic people or enable untrustworthy people because we trust them even though they don't deserve it, right? Even though they've shown that they are not worthy of trust. We're enabling them by allowing them to behave so badly and yet still trusting them. Yeah. Yeah. See, Thomas says, yes, we have to work on our traumas to heal. Well, you guys, it is near the end here and I want to say goodbye, but I'm going to give you a couple more minutes to wrap up with each other. Maria says, good luck and wishes for all of you who need it. I need it too, by the way. Yes. Blessings to you, Maria. Obi-Wan says, goodbye, everyone. If your narc can't love you, learn to love yourself and many will follow. Ah, I like that, Obi-Wan. Yes, I will agree with that. when you become strong, when you know who you are, you're going to just draw people to you. Now, you got to be careful, right? Because you'll also be drawing toxic people to you. But once you can identify these 7 subtle signs, you're going to be able to withstand and resist the toxic people who are going to be drawn to you. Yeah. Obi-Wan says, don't thank me, thank yourselves. You're a strong survivor. Aw, because Mike says, thanks, Obi. Yeah. Yeah, C. Thomas says, looking back, yes, the signs were all there, right? Weren't they? And they're kind of subtle because these are things that we've learned to just accept for some reason, right? These are things that we accepted in our relationship with the narcissist. But here's a good thing. We don't have to accept this moving forward. We don't have to accept it in our new relationships. Now we use this as a tool, right? It's almost like a decoder. We hold up to people and go, okay, are you exhibiting these 7 subtle signs? And if you are, then I can only go so far with you. I cannot trust you with my heart. I cannot trust you with my personal information. Yes. But the great news is I'm coming across people who are surpassing and passing these tests, right? With flying colors. And I am so blessed. I feel so good that now I know the people in my life that I can trust. I'm able to identify them. And I trust my judgment because I'm learning. I've been learning how to identify these things. It's so good, you guys. G. Marie, good to see you, says he signed them out of school and he can because we aren't divorced. Oh. Okay, Jihad had asked, how did he take your kids away? And she was saying that. Yeah. Yeah. And, to the ones who are parents here, I heard or I had read a comment recently that said the best payback is to be the best parent you can be to your kids. So that's the best payback you can have against the narcissist, is that, and it's good for your kids too, because you becoming the best parent that you can be is going to save your kids. You can't change the narcissist and you can't make the narcissist do things, but you can affect yourself. You can change yourself. You can make yourself do things that are good, right? That counteracts what the narcissist does. G. Marie says he tormented me for 2 years before he got a hold of them. I am so sorry about that. But don't give up, G. Marie, C. Thomas says. Yeah, and Obi-Wan says at least you can heal. Yeah. Oh, Jihad says you need to go to court and get an emergency hearing to get the kids back. Yeah, if that's possible, do it. And take notes, write down every interaction you have with them. Take pictures, save any texts that go back and forth between the two of you. If there are any signs at all of manipulation or abusive language, anything like that, record. That's another thing too. Nowadays, we can just even record. Set your phone on recording when you're around him, because even if he doesn't, you don't have to hold it in his face. But if you can hear or replay a sound recording of what's the way he's talking to you and stuff, that is useful in court to prove your point. So yes, protect yourself. Well, you guys, we are at the end. Many blessings to you. I am so glad that you guys got on today, and I'm so glad that we were able to talk about this. I hope that you now know that you have these tools. You have this decoder, right, that you can use. So many blessings to you, and I will catch up with you next week.